Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another WXR. I am your host for this session, James Phoenix. Joining me is the usual group of knuckleheads, Marcus Shadow.
Welcome to Raw is Shadow!
You unoriginal son of a bitch.
Ditto.
I know. Also, Chriz, a.k.a. The Mole.
I'm here to show you the light.
And over there we have the stay-at-home dad gamer, Richter Hammer.
Feel the hammentum.
The hammentum. Should
This is going to be good.
Should not be feel my hammer toes.
Oh. And over there, if he has not disappeared yet again, is the Fallen Angel.
Yeah.
All right. So, for tonight's topic, we're going to do what I like to refer to as a storyline analysis. And we're going to be doing a lot of these on WXR for both superstar analysis and storyline analysis. Basically, where we take a given thing, either a superstar, a faction, or in this case, a storyline or event, and effectively look at it from a historical perspective. Say, okay, this is what it was, objectively speaking. Was it high points, low points, good, bad? In terms of superstars, it'll be, you know, their ability on the microphone, in the ring, etc., their longevity, things like that. Our first one is going to be On the Rock. Stay tuned for that. That'll be hosted by Marcus Shadow down the road here.
Are we allowed to include the fallout?
Fallout of what?
The given storyline.
I see. I don't see any reason why not.
Like stuff that's directly related, if that makes sense. Cool.
I think we can do that. And if you'd like to see our first superstar evaluation that was done before we even became a video site, head over to our board at xplan.proboards.com.
Or if you want to see our first event analysis, check out our previous video. Theme pay-per-views.
Exactly. So, that was a lot of events. This is a storyline. So, for tonight, we're going to look at what some might consider, and what I personally consider to be probably the biggest failure in the history of the WWE. I know some people in this conversation disagree with me, and we'll get to that. But this is an event that occurred in 2001, and it was known as the Invasion.
The Invasion.
Exactly.
Oh, wait.
Nice.
Okay, then.
Time for backstory.
Yeah, I ruined it. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So, for those that are unaware, in early 2001, Vince McMahon, owner of the then World Wrestling Federation, purchased the then remnants of World Championship Wrestling, a.k.a. WCW, from the Turner Broadcasting Company. When this occurred, the WWE writers, and I don't know if the Nitro writers were involved or not, if they just kind of pulled their I don't know, or if they said, fuck it, went home. But the writers came up with the idea that they were going to integrate this into integrate the superstars and talent of WCW into the WWE by having a storyline that they were calling the Invasion. This involved, first of all, it should be noted that this event is the end of the Monday Night War, so it should have been a huge climax of something that had driven ratings for literally years. So,
well, not really the years leading up to it being purchased, though, because it was WCW got ran by Vince Russo, and yeah, he turned into complete shit.
this is true.
Fuck Russo.
Mm-hmm. On a related note, hi TNA. How's that going for you? Yeah. Anyway, so, effectively, what would happen here, sorry, you guys say something?
Oh, I was going to say, thinking about it technically, when I mentioned Russo, with the fact people always refer to stuff like the Russo swerve, is Vince Russo the M. Night Shyamalan of wrestling?
Could be.
CM Punk is a heel. What a twist.
Yep.
Fair enough, fair enough.
But continue with your story.
So anyway, unfortunately, I do not have the exact date in front of me here. Do you remember the exact date of the Raw that it occurred, Mole? Do you know?
No.
Okay, well, anyway. Okay, so the actual okay, here we go. The final the night was on March 26, 2001. Here we go. I do have it.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yes, thank you, Wikipedia. You're so helpful. If only you were more accurate on other stuff. Anyway, on the night of March 26, 2001, which was, of course, a Monday, the final night of the Monday Night Wars, Raw kicked off, and Vince McMahon came to the ring to announce that he had officially purchased WCW and, therefore, Monday Night Nitro from its former owner, and he proceeded to simulcast the program over on Nitro as well on the TNT network, at which point Nitro came up on the big screen. You could kind of see what was going on both shows. He informed that he would be signing the contract to take over, and that this would be a new era of professional wrestling. Until his son, Shane McMahon, showed up on Nitro rather unexpectedly to the shock of the chairman, only to have his son inform him that, well, the name on the contract did say McMahon. It read Shane McMahon. As a result, Shane McMahon effectively purchased WCW and intended to use it as a rival group of superstars against his father's established WWF superstars. Shortly thereafter, the purchase of ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, was also completed and was brought in supposedly under the ownership of Vince's daughter and Shane's sister, Stephanie McMahon, at which point they formed a group known as the Alliance. The Alliance then proceeded to use its combined forces in an attempt to effectively take over the WWF from the WWF superstars and Vince McMahon, leading to what could have been the greatest storyline of all time. Now, there were, of course, a number of issues relating to how this went down, and we're going to talk about some of these issues. I'll name an issue, and then we'll discuss the issue. The first issue that was a big primary thing when this went down is the fact that because of the way the Turner Company's contracts were written with their superstars, when this purchase went down, WWF did not get the majority of WCW's biggest superstars, including people like Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash, because they basically had paid contracts, and they were basically happier to sit at home and get paid to do nothing than they were to show up on WWF programming. So, problem number one there. So that was number one, is that there weren't a lot of big faces of the WCW for people to cheer for aside from Booker T. The second issue came in the face of the fact that the fans pretty much were supposed to, as the storyline was written, support the Invasion guys, having been forcibly displaced from their home by the evil Mr. McMahon and trying to fight against him for what was right. Unfortunately, the fans saw this for what it was, a load of crap, and immediately sided with the WWF superstars and hated these invaders and supported all the WWF guys in throwing them out.
To be fair, I don't think that was necessarily them supporting the WWE guys because it was crap. Part of that, I felt, was a lot of people didn't watch ECW and WCW and WWE. Some did, a lot of them did, but there was also a lot that was just exclusive to WWE. So you tell them that, hey, you know that product you like? Yeah? These are the guys trying to ruin it forever. Pretty sure they're going to hate it. Pretty sure they're going to boo.
There is logic in what you say. So as the invasion progressed, ECW and WCW superstars slowly made their way onto the roster, going back and forth, fighting with a variety of WWF superstars in a variety of matches. What was initially kind of cool, the aforementioned lack of name talent from WCW led to another problem, and that was a proposed and accepted solution to the issue of there not being face people representing WCW was, let's have a whole bunch of people repeatedly jump back and forth on different sides of this fight.
Yep. And I will also say this is October. It's our Halloween month. If you're going to tell us a story, please can you do it in the Crypt Keeper from Tales of the Crypt voice?
I don't know if I can do that voice. I don't think I'm good enough.
Fair enough.
The invasion continued on for a good chunk of 2001, with a lot of superstars jumping sides, including Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, a whole variety of stars jumping back and forth from side to side. You never knew really who was going to turn on who, and there were some good aspects of this. Some good promos came out of it. Some good, some good matches came out of it. That's not to say that this was bad. There were some things you never thought you would see because of these two separate companies. That was kind of cool. In particular, in my mind, The Rock, after finding out that Booker T was the WWE champion, suck-eyed the Shane McMahon wanted a piece of The Rock's ass, wanted to know what kind of alliance they were running over there, and that was a great promo.
But not as great as The Rock and Austin singing.
That too. That was awesome. So, this all eventually led up, starting, of course, in March. This eventually led up to the July pay-per-view that was known as WWF Invasion. Invasion. Which, I will confess, has probably one of the most awesome posters of any pay-per-view. For those of you that don't know, I'll throw a picture of it up in here in the editing, but effectively it's a split face where half of the face is Shane and half of it's Vince. But because they look so much alike being father and son, it almost looks like one person when you look at it quickly.
Sure, create more work for Marcus. And then take credit for it. Sure, why not?
He needs to work.
Yeah, right. I'm a boss. My prerogative to do that. How many watch Triple H take credit for everything as everybody else does?
Yeah. I see. I had your back, Marcus.
Yeah. So, effectively, the idea was there were a series of cross-brand matches going on here, and the main event was a 5-on-5 Survivor Series match, effectively, with the winning team's owner, whether it was the Alliance or the WWF, gaining full control of the company and basically being able to do whatever the hell they wanted with it. Of course, in the end, Vince McMahon's team of WWF superstars did inevitably win, and thus everything was settled as being under the ownership of Vince McMahon. Shane and Stephanie quietly disappeared. The brand split occurred to sort out a way to actually have a spot for all these new superstars on the roster without it being a clusterfuck, and thus a new era of WWE began.
Aren't you glad that Stephanie McMahon disappeared, Richter, and was not seen again?
I meant for a period of time. I didn't mean.
I'm aware.
Although they did make the awesome move of selling all their shares of WWE stock to Ric Flair to make him the owner of Raw, which was cool.
Woo! Woo!
Remember, end of this, synchronized wooing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is the invasion in a bit of a nutshell. Everyone want to go around and talk about things they liked about the invasion, things they didn't like?
Yeah, okay. Did you want us to go things we like or dislike first?
Whichever you guys want to do.
Fair enough. I'll let them go first.
How about Richter? I know he's a more long-running fan than Marcus. What did you like about the invasion? Let's start with that.
I thought the start of it was really good, just because it's the fact that Vince purchased it is one of those things of sorry to always have video game analogies, but like the first time you see Sonic on a Nintendo system, it was one of those things of just the idea of it was mind-boggling. I didn't watch much WCW, but I still was, I'd seen it sometimes. I was aware of the wrestlers and stuff, so it was still just crazy to me that, like, oh, he purchased it. Like, how is this going to merge? So, I think it started fine, but yeah, definitely there's a bit of a miscalculation there of how they pulled it off and how people would react, but that was probably my favorite part, was just the start of it.
I just remember that night when we were watching it. I don't know if you remember, Richter, but we were constantly switching between Raw and Nitro.
So we're like, what the hell is going on?
We just kind of looked at each other and we're just like, oh my God, hell has frozen over.
Yeah.
I will say I still have that last WCW recorded on VHS.
Nice.
And I believe it's also included in one of my DVDs too.
Nice. And actually, your earlier analogy is rather apt, Richter, because much like with Sonic coming to Nintendo, when the quote-unquote Alliance, or more specifically WCW, got there, they basically completely became WWF's bitch.
Yeah.
I also remember when ECW was purchased. I remember Richter was like, "Oh my God, they got ECW people here. This is going to be awesome." And then he saw what WWF did to ECW and was like, "Fuck you, fuck you."
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Come on, they finally made RVD a world champion.
That I'll be okay with.
But,
we were starting with what we liked first.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Stuff I liked. I did enjoy some of the more comical promos, like the Alliance singing to Austin, "You are the wind beneath our wing." It was fucking
that
hilariously
was
horrible. And The Rock and Austin singing and stuff, that was hilarious. Plus, any time of stuff like Stone Cold playing a guitar with Kurt Angle next to him, a little tiny cowboy hat.
That was hilarious.
Plus, who can forget the awesomeness that was the Kurt Angle milk float attack?
The milk bath, yes. That was great. I actually explicitly remember the night that happened because I was
Pregnant.
Shut up. That's not that. No, actually, I'm thinking of a different night, but I do remember specifically watching that, being like, okay, that's a beer bath. That's pretty funny though. I like that. And they just slammed 2 cartons of milk and he downed, and it was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I will also say, like what Victor said, the beginning of it was kind of cool. It was like Hell's Frozen Over and stuff, but I also loved the impact of like Booker T just does the bookend to Austin through the fucking announce table. I believe it was King of the Ring, and it was like, that's just awesome.
Then The Rock, whoa, what in the holy hell do you think you're doing? That is The Rock's move.
Yep. Which is one of the reasons Sting never signed to WWE, apparently.
Oh, why? Because of what he called is the same move too?
No, because Sting did different stuff. Sting just didn't like it. The WCW people showed up. He's mentioned on an interview. He didn't like the fact they showed up, and when they finally showed up, they were dressed with stuff like The Rock asking, "Who the hell are you?" Which instantly makes any of the WWE fans that didn't watch WCW ask the question, "Yeah, who the hell are you?" Which stops them getting over where they should have been treated as equals. Which
this is true.
Is fair enough.
Yes, it is fair enough. Something I liked, and unfortunately that was back in the day where I didn't really watch wrestling religiously at that time, primarily because I didn't always know. I mean, I started to figure out, oh, it's Mondays, but I didn't know because it was, at that time there was Raw, SmackDown, Nitro, Thunder. There was like every damn night of the week, so I couldn't keep track of when the hell anything was on.
Well, it took you till you were a teenager to realize that there was something called Mondays. Bravo, Jim. Bravo,
Yeah.
Your parents must be proud.
I figured out that it was always on Monday after a while, but I just never really always watched it because I didn't always know what channel it was on or anything else because the stuff was always on the different channels. So by the time I'd gotten to that point, I kind of figured, okay, Raw's on every Monday night, and I was starting to watch it. But one of the things I always remember from that particular era was that was the golden era of Big Show impressions. He's in the parking lot with an afro. What are you saying, sucker? You know, or the greatest Big Show impression of all time. Hi there, I'm DDP. And when the Big Show destroys the Alliance and Invasion, you never have to look at me, or my blonde hair, or my big fake white teeth ever again. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. God, I love that promo.
I like his Hulk Hogan one.
His Hogan one was good too, yeah. Big Show does great impressions. He needs to do that more often. Speaking of impressions, off topic, does anybody else miss Charlie Haas?
Kinda.
Only when he was teaming with Shelton Benjamin.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
However, I reckon that should be Big Show's new gimmick. Big Show should be like Ditto. The second he comes out into the ring as Hulk Hogan, they should bill him as Hulk Hogan, and any wins or losses he takes should be contributed to Hulk Hogan in WWE's win-loss record, not Big Show.
That'd be hilarious.
So he has the power to beat all wrestlers.
That would be hilarious.
But doesn't that mean he also has to, but doesn't that mean he also has to have sex with all the wrestlers?
He's not Steph. Anyway.
Trash bag ho!
But yes.
Pretty much.
Well,
We get to hear from the Fallen Angel.
Yes, Fallen Angel, what did you like about the invasion, if anything?
If you're there.
He's not there.
If anything.
If anything.
If anything. I'm gonna have to say Stone Cold.
He was very good during this time with the jumping back and forth, the singing. It was really a good era for Stone Cold to be a little more of a lighthearted superstar while still a serious influence.
Yeah, I did have to say he was pretty good after WrestleMania. He was trying to cheer up Vince, so he decided to sing "Kumbaya" and "We Are the Champions" and give him the cowboy hat.
Yes.
Indeed.
Good times, good times. So, moving back along, that's going to lead to things about the invasion that we generally did not like. I'm going to open it up. First, one thing I did not like, and I did mention it earlier, was basically the fact that they had to take a bunch of WWF faces and make them faces of the invasion because they had none. And really, it just kind of made the invasion look kind of pathetic.
Yep.
The alliance, I should say. The fact that, we don't have any faces, so we're going to have to steal a couple of yours, and the fact they were constantly switching, and it really made them kind of look like bitches.
Yep. I'll go first with my negatives.
Okay.
Number one was that. Number two was not treating the WCW and ECW people like equals. A lot of times they were treated like the cowardly heels we get now. And it's like, ugh. Third thing was, this was the era in which Austin created War. Ugh. And that still haunted us. Even up until Daniel Bryan did the Yes, that still haunted us a bit.
They still do what every once in a while.
And I absolutely really fucking hate, they took DDP, the charismatic DDP, and they turned him into a stalker of The Undertaker's wife.
Yeah, that storyline was bullshit.
And it's like, oh god, that's not what you do with DDP. And even it's me, it's DDP. Well, that's not a bad thing. Even that wasn't really DDP. It's like, no, we never really got a chance to see DDP be DDP, which, that was kind of stupid. It's like, and constantly referencing both Booker T being basically a clone of The Rock was pretty bad, because they started around-ish the same time, and even if he copied elements of him, they didn't do that with any of the other wrestlers. Like, every time The Rock did a really horrible sharpshooter, they never once turned around and said, oh my god, he's ripping off Bret Hart. No. Because it was a WWE guy, so what the hell?
This is true.
Yeah. Plus, it felt, after the Invasion pay-per-view, when Austin turned and joined the Alliance, it felt like everything after this point didn't matter. Because it's like, we had the pay-per-view, the Invasion pay-per-view, which was meant to end the Invasion, and yet you want to drag it on for a few more months. At that point, it's life support. But
pretty much.
They're mainly my ones. I'll open it up to everyone else now.
Fair enough.
Hashtag I agree with the Mole. No, I was really disappointed. Like Mole said, that WWF didn't really seem to use the WCW and ECW superstars properly. Because like, all of a sudden all these superstars started showing up, some of which I'd heard about through Richter, because he was a huge ECW fan, so he would be telling me about ECW, and then I knew some of the WCW superstars by that point, knowing them from, like, that they used to be WWF superstars and whatever. And then when they came over, it's like, well, because you're of the, quote, inferior brand, unquote, we don't give a fuck, we're not going to use you properly. And it's like, what? Really? Kind of disappointing. And like Jim said, it made them seem really weak, because then it's like nobody cared about them, so they pretty much had to use WWE superstars. It's like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yep. They also missed a huge opportunity when you think about it in hindsight. What was the main problem we said? They had lack of faces from WCW. The night after the invasion ends, they bring in Ric Flair, and within a month bring in Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan. If they'd kept the invasion going, even though it was on life support, and then suddenly Ric Flair got introduced as part of the invasion, and then the NWO got introduced, it would be an instant threat. It would be, holy fuck, you got the star power now. They were just sitting in the back burners. Like, the NWO could just be like, you know what? We were watching WCW try and take on WWE and they failed. What they need is a proper group of people that are used to invading companies. So we decided to set aside our differences and show them how it's done. And instantly, you would buy that invasion. You would buy Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, the WCW, ECW Alliance, and Ric Flair. You would buy them as a credible source of invading WWE.
Plus, we probably would have gotten the amazing NWO DX feud.
Possibly.
Yes. I apologize for earlier. I realized I was not a totally religious watcher back then, and I mistakenly thought that that final five match was actually at the Invasion pay-per-view when it was actually at Survivor Series several months later. So I apologize. I misrepresented that.
Yeah, it was because they had the normal 5-on-5-ish matchup at Invasion, but with not a Survivor Series style, and then Austin turned them and they dragged it on.
Fair enough. Okay, my apologies on that. So, let's see.
It was a logical mistake due to the fact that was the pay-per-view, like I said, that was supposed to end it, and they built it with a similar tag team thing. What the fuck?
Yeah, fair enough. So, who's next? Things you did not like about the Invasion?
Ricky.
Angel, Hammer, Shadow, anybody?
I was going to say with to going along just similar with the not using their talent and the inferior brands. I guess that they must have liked that because it seems that they continued that for the SmackDown brand, where they treat it like the inferior brand. So they must have liked that attitude, the higher up people. But yeah, pretty much that's what I disliked.
Then they felt sorry for them and they gave them the Undertaker to make up for everything.
There you go.
And the SmackDown 6.
They're like, he'll carry you. And they're like, that's still
SmackDown 6.
SmackDown 6, like I mentioned before, of Eddie Guerrero, Chavo, I believe it was Benoit, Kurt Angle, Edge, and did I mention Chavo? Anyway, there were 6 people and they were constantly in teams against each other. It was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Anyway. Yeah, other than that, it was definitely that they just misused those people. And I was a huge ECW fan, and just seeing what they did with all those people, and I was like, oh, this makes me sad.
Yep, I was in the same boat with WCW.
I can definitely sympathize with you there. You just see this, and you're like, why would you? Well, I think that part of that was that they acquired so many people, and that they kind of had a plan with who they had, and then just getting all these other people, they probably had no idea what to even try to do with them all. And apparently they didn't want to try, if that makes sense. Like, they had the built-in angle of the invasion, and then they tried to make them, like do separate things, which is good, but they just had too many people and too little to do with them.
Right.
So
they also messed up with whom they chose to turn on each other for the invasion. Like, Kurt Angle had no place there. Austin constantly mentioned he hated working for WCW, so he wouldn't have gone back.
I know, right?
And they have Jericho, who was in WCW. They tease him turning heel and never actually make him one of the ones to join the invasion. What the fuck?
That was a Raw roulette gone wrong.
Yeah, it's like Jericho and Big Show would have belonged on the invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Big Show, because the Giant was the last time he was awesome.
Yeah. Fair enough. How about you, Marcus? Things that you did not like about the invasion?
Well, I thought I already said my piece.
Yeah, we did, Marcus.
Okay. How about you, Vaughn Angel? Dislikes?
Pretty much everything.
Fair enough.
Overall, it was good, but there were just bits and pieces that just made it sad.
Yeah, overall, I think it was a combination of issues of the fact that they did not have the top talent. I think it was too many guys. I mean, the writers could the writers were doing a decent job with what they had, but they could barely handle that, and then all these new guys, they just couldn't keep up with the influx of new talent, having to keep them all occupied, which I think is still a problem that they dealt with from then to this very day.
Yep, and they also didn't respect what came before it. And I don't know about Richter, but it left like a foul taste in my mouth, a lot of the stuff. Like, the Dudley Boys had no right being WCW champion because ECW did not like WCW and WCW did not like ECW. So ECW people should not be should not be WCW champion, and WCW people should not be ECW champion. You need to respect that, because Paul Heyman hated WCW, and Eric Bischoff hated Paul Heyman. So it's like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm. But then again, Eric Bischoff hated Vince McMahon, and we know how that ended up.
Yep, and Paul Heyman also hated paying people's wages.
We saw how that ended up.
This is true.
That ended up pretty well. He's recently hired Ryback. Ryback makes up for losing ECW, right? Right? No? Okay.
I think the invasion was the birth of WWE's, and by extension Vince McMahon and Triple H's modus operandi for running the business from that point forward of, we don't give a shit about anyone but ourselves. And you could see it like pretty much through the entire invasion of, they didn't give a shit about the WCW, ECW superstars. All they cared about was making their superstars look strong. That's why the WCW, ECW alliance didn't look credible. That's why they didn't respect the history of both the companies and what came before it. Because they didn't give a shit.
Yep, it says it all. When the best people in the invasion for WCW and ECW were Austin and Kurt Angle. That's pretty much that's pretty much a slap in the face right there. And as well as that, WWE at that point also lost something which I felt they needed, which we've all said in the past as well. I know most wrestling fans have said that. The second WWE no longer has competition, they no longer have to try.
Yeah.
Which goes into what Marcus said. They don't have to try anymore because they don't have to worry about, the WCW is going to kick our ass in the ratings yet again. No, they don't have to worry about that now. But now it's just a case of, no, we can do whatever the fuck we like. Who gives a shit what people say? It's like, they don't, like, in the Attitude Era-ish at the time, one of the good things with the Invasion and the Attitude Era with the Monday Night Wars was you got people like The Rock turning into The Rock because WWE were afraid not to listen to the fans. Because they were afraid if they didn't listen to the fans, and WCW did the same thing at a certain point, if they didn't listen to the fans, then essentially speaking, the fans are just going to tune into the other show because they're not getting what they feel's their opinion validated. Whereas now, people boo John Cena, and WWE just goes, he's controversial.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, WCW basically gave up on listening to the fans and they started listening to Vince Russo.
Yep, that's the bad time at WCW. Like I said, the second Bischoff went and they brought in Russo, it went to shit. Because even that was one of the problems with WCW. Because fuck it, it's the Invasion, we can talk about it. Like Ric Flair and people mentioned before now, Vince Russo. I think they mentioned this on the Monday Night Wars DVD at one point as well. They mentioned Russo shows up in WCW, tells people like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and people like that you don't know anything about wrestling. I know about wrestling because I'm the guy that single-handedly over in WWE created Stone Cold and The Rock. And they're like, wait. No, you didn't. You were one of the writers, but you had people to tell you no. You were not the messiah of wrestling. And they even said, and that right there instantly makes people not want to work there because they're like, we don't give a shit because you're taking credit for something you shouldn't be taking credit for. Fuck you. You're too confident for what you are. You need a no, man.
Pretty much. Plus, we all know that the messiah of wrestling has to be the man that actually tag teamed with God.
I thought it was Mordecai.
That too.
I miss Mordecai.
Poor Mordecai. Got thrown out because he was too much like The Undertaker.
Then came back as a vampire.
Yep.
And then got thrown out because no one was interested in vampires like 6 months before Twilight aired, which then made vampires a craze.
See, if WWE was smart with Mordecai, especially with his look, They should have made him a face version of the Undertaker, so it's light v dark. That would have been awesome.
They did that. He was called Shawn Michaels.
I thought Undertaker was the face version of Undertaker.
That too.
Okay, well, heel. Well, I guess he was heel then, but they should have just gone with it. Just had him feud with Undertaker. Would have been awesome. Because then it would have been, if they'd have built it up right, it'd been like, holy shit, Undertaker actually has an equal now. What the hell?
Now, if they wanted somebody evil to feud with the Undertaker, it should have been the Boogeyman, like they did in the video game.
No, I hated Boogeyman.
But now we're getting off topic.
Yes.
Yeah, moving back on the topic of the invasion. Yeah, overall, the pay-per-view there were some good moments here and there. Overall, it was kind of lackluster, and I think, as someone who at the time was a casual fan, it probably says something that when I think back to around that time frame, the thing I remember most about the invasion is the night after it ended.
See,
I remember that night I was home and I was doing a ridiculous fucking homework assignment for my home ec class. I had to balance a checkbook or some shit like that, but it was really convoluted for no reason. And I remember I had Raw on in the background, and I wasn't really paying attention to it at the beginning because I was focusing on the assignment. And all of a sudden, halfway through, I just kind of start listening to the commentary, and I'm like, wait, is that Jerry Lawler? The fuck? And that's when I actually had to go back later, and the internet wasn't totally a thing back then, but at some point I managed to get a hold of a clip and actually, or in retrospect, and see the clip of Vince actually firing him and having him dragged the fuck out by security and bringing Jerry Lawler out and JR worshiping him like he was God.
Yep. Which, to me, personally, and it still says it to today when I'm always negative about WWE, for me personally, the invasion, even though the Attitude Era was pretty bad in my opinion on WWE's side, WCW was good at that time. And like Richter would have had his ECW and stuff, which was cool. For me personally, the invasion, to quote to do the American Pie songish, for me personally, the invasion was the time wrestling died. That's when wrestling died and it became entertainment.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of agree with that.
The wrestling died.
I was just gonna say we're all gonna have a meeting after this, and we're gonna write an American Pie parody about the day the wrestling died.
No, I can kind of agree with that. The era of entertainment.
Pretty much.
Because
that's what this era should be called. It should be called the entertainment era.
Yeah. It's because literally right after the invasion, pissed all over everything you'd liked about the wrestling for years. Then that wasn't enough, no. Then they bring in Ric Flair and the NWO and piss all over that. And then they started to go into the ruthless aggression era and stuff like that, and then Cena became the poster child. It's like, no, wrestling's just not as good as it was like late 80s, early 90s before the Attitude Era, or 90s WCW. So, yeah, the day the wrestling died.
Well, folks, this has been a rather lively discussion. Does anybody else have any final thoughts on the invasion?
Jim,
all right, then.
If you were leading the invasion, would you take it up the rear?
Funny.
Or do you prefer a full frontal assault?
Okay, then.
Okay, fine. I won't do the thing of making you say you were gay. Okay, fine.
Funny.
We'll say it for you. No.
No. Save it for Marcus.
I'd actually like to kind of hear the Fallen Angel's opinions on this, since he's been kind of quiet.
Angel, what do you got?
Guess he got nothing.
Evidently, he has nothing.
That makes me sad.
So, yeah, it's kind of sad. How sad. Anyway. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a discussion of the invasion. I think overall we agreed that it had a lot of problems. It could have been something awesome, but it generally fell flat on its face and led to the dark ages of wrestling.
It could have been something awesome, but instead WWE pissed all over the history of wrestling. It sucked, and it became the blueprint for what WWE is today, unfortunately.
Yep. So, with that, thank you everyone for joining me for this little go around on the invasion. We'll look at some more storylines in the future. If you have any storylines you'd like to hear us talk about, or for that matter, superstars, head over to xpound.promowars.com, start up a thread, let us know in our WXR forum in there, or shoot us a tweet at the xpound.
Yep.
We'll talk about it.
Coming up, we have Superstar Evaluation with The Rock, hosted by Marcus Shadow. And we also have, at the same time, right after that, we'll have Best and Worst Finishers, hosted by Richter Hammer.
Yay.
Nice.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. So, thank you everybody for joining me. This has been WXR, a look at the invasion. We'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.